That's why I worry that because of the overall worldview of this administration, we will fail in Afghanistan.
Switching to Afghanistan, what do you think the likelihood is that General Petraeus succeeds with the surge?
Well, I don't think this is a question of one man on a white horse. It wasn't McChrystal. It won't be Petraeus. I think we have to focus on what America's basic interests are in conducting this conflict that we began because of 9/11. And I think there are two basic objectives. One is to prevent the Taliban and al-Qaeda from retaking control in Afghanistan and once again using it as a base for international terrorist activities. That was our objective after 9/11. That objective remains valid today. But there's a second objective now I think is actually more important than the first one, and that's to prevent instability in Afghanistan spilling over the border into Pakistan, seeing the civilian government or friendly military forces in Pakistan fall under the control of Pakistani Taliban and al-Qaeda or other radical Islamicists that then put the Pakistani nuclear capability in their hands. That requires more than just an active American presence in Afghanistan. It requires a lot more work on the Pakistani government, but it's something that we ignore at our peril. So that's why I think much of the so-called counterinsurgency strategy in Afghanistan is misplaced. We are not going to make Afghanistan into the Switzerland of Central Asia, and we shouldn't try. Nor should our objectives be measured by the performance of the Afghan government. I'd love to see an Afghan government that wasn't corrupt, but I don't think we can wait around for that to happen. Our objective should be the destruction of the Taliban and al-Qaeda in both Afghanistan and Pakistan. I don't think that has much, if anything, to do with economic or social development in Afghanistan. I think it has to do with a successful, I fear long-term, it will take a long time to do it, but a successful military operation against the Taliban and al-Qaeda.
So General Petraeus should focus on more in annihilating the Taliban rather than building up structurally Afghanistan.
This is a grim and unappealing conclusion, but it is that it is the destruction of the Taliban and al-Qaeda that is our strategic objective, not improvement of the everyday life of the Afghan population. I'd love to see that happen for their benefit, but we're dealing with a form of religious fanaticism. It is not an economic problem. It's not a problem of poverty. It's a problem of ideology. And as we succeed in our effort to destroy the Taliban, you will be amazed to see how economics disappears as a problem as people in Afghanistan say, we want nothing to do with a Taliban that's on the road to defeat.
Well, how can people in Afghanistan, leaders in Afghanistan, who actually want to help us in overthrowing the Taliban, eviscerating the Taliban, or even Americans support an increased Afghan presence when Barack Obama and people in his administration, Rahm Emanuel, Joe Biden, are insisting that we will be out of there July 2011?
If that's the policy that the Obama administration is going to pursue, then we will fail in Afghanistan, General Petraeus or no General Petraeus. And I think it's important for Americans that want the strategic objectives I've outlined to be achieved to understand they need to put continuing pressure on the administration, that we will measure them by their ability or their failure to reach those objectives. I have to say I'm pessimistic given the nature of the president we have, but I think we therefore need to be realistic about the impact of switching Petraeus for McChrystal. It is not a guaranteed solution. I think the strategy we're pursuing needs to be changed, not for a lesser American presence, which is what many in the administration want, but to understand and explain to the American people that to achieve our objectives, not to achieve the Afghan objectives, to achieve our objectives, we need a continuing, relentless military pressure on the Taliban.
Let's assume that General Petraeus is not successful in subduing the Taliban, given the lack of support the administration may be giving him, and Obama pulls troops out in July 2011. What's Plan B?
Well, I think Plan B is for Obama that he says, you know, it's unacceptable because the government of Afghanistan is still corrupt and doesn't hold free and fair elections, to which my response is, no kidding. That was true in 2001 when we went into Afghanistan. It'll be true in 2011. It'll be true in 2021. That's not the reason we were there. We were there for American objectives, not for Afghan objectives. But that's why I worry that because of the overall worldview of this administration, we will fail in Afghanistan, despite the best efforts of our military, despite everything they try and do, despite even what General Petraeus may try and do. That will leave the United States in a materially weaker position in Afghanistan and Pakistan, in Iraq, in the Persian Gulf, with respect to Iran's nuclear program. That's why I'm so worried about the outcome for the United States of the policies of this administration, and why we need to hope that at best it's a one-term administration. Maybe the president will wake up tomorrow and see the error of his ways, but I'm not counting on it.